Hello, and welcome to Faraway Radio, the social impact podcast that spotlights the voices of grassroots humanitarians and environmentalists, focusing on stories of changemakers. Join us every week as we connect with these leaders from around the world and hear about their journeys of creating community resilience. This season, we're going to be focusing on the changemakers of the ocean, inspiring activists, athletes, explorers, and even an astronaut who are using art, tech, and science to better our oceans. My name is Desiree Tavera, Executive Director of Faraway Projects and your host. This season is in collaboration with Ultramarine Ocean Action Summit and recorded at their various events throughout the year. All of our guests have such unique origin stories, and it's so motivating to hear how they're leading ocean regeneration through their work. Today, we're sitting down with Gaelin Rosenwaks, a bold ocean explorer and marine conservationist. Gaelin is a marine scientist, explorer, photographer, and filmmaker who has always been fascinated by the marine world. She began diving at just 14 and has since continued exploring ocean ecosystems. Gaelin earned her master's degree in coastal environmental management from Duke University and has conducted fieldwork throughout the world from the Antarctic all the way up to the Arctic. She founded Global Ocean Exploration, which is a company devoted to bringing cutting-edge expedition science to the public through photography, writing, and film. She now participates and conducts expeditions in every ocean to alert the public not only of the challenges facing the oceans, but also what science is doing to understand these changes. Let's dive in. Pun definitely intended. Thank you for joining us today, Gaelin Rosenwaks.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, please tell us a little bit about yourself. It's such an honor. I got to meet you last night, and the work that you're doing is really just groundbreaking, impressive, inspiring, and I'd love to have you share your story.
Oh, thank you. So I'm a marine biologist by education, and then I left the academic world to start storytelling with film and photography. And I started out on oceanographic expeditions, telling these incredible stories about cutting edge oceanographic research to really start answering the questions about like what science is doing to understand these like gloom and doom scenarios we're hearing on the news all the time. Like what are they doing? What are scientists doing to understand climate change, overfishing, ocean acidification? Because so many great scientists were doing it and nobody knew. We were just hearing these gloom and doom scenarios. So I wanted to tell those stories. So I started out sort of doing that. And then it's evolved into telling all kinds of different ocean stories, conservation stories, everything from the smallest creatures in the ocean to, the largest.
Yeah. All right. I've got so many questions for you. You are awesome. What was your first expedition?
I would say my first expedition was probably when I was like really small with my parents because we used to travel all over. But my first, so we spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia, and everywhere we'd go, we were always exploring something new and going off the beaten path, staying in huts on the beach in some random island somewhere, which was amazing. That's awesome. But my first expedition for work was to Antarctica.
Wow.
So right after I finished my undergraduate degree, I worked at Woods Hole, and I ended up working on a project on Southern Ocean zooplankton. Wow. And I had always dreamed about like the big white blob on the bottom of my globe and going there. And it was the seventh continent that I needed to go to. And it was really exciting because I got to spend 2 months on an icebreaker down in the Antarctic studying zooplankton, which was awesome.
Wow. Super cool. What's the most surprising thing you found out there?
I think that one of the coolest things there for me was really, it was my first introduction to sea ice and to just a completely foreign, really landscape or seascape because we were on a ship, but we were moving through this solid form and to understand sort of and to see the birds and the different animals that were on the ice and how they were interacting, but it was very much a part of the ocean ecosystem. It became so much more tangible and easy to understand when we are talking about like losing sea ice and what that means.
Yeah. What's your next expedition?
So my next expedition will most likely be on sperm whales still. So I've been working on a project on sperm whales for the past 3 years. And they sort of captured my heart and my soul and like every part of my being. So I think I'm going to continue to do a few more projects on them or a few more expeditions on them before
Where do
I
sperm
move else.
whales forward their mail to?
Well, sperm whales go everywhere in the ocean.
Whoa.
So, and they're found everywhere in the ocean. So it's pretty
Whoa.
cool. So from like really cold areas to the tropics.
Yeah.
So we've been mostly working in the tropics, in the
Mm.
Eastern Caribbean and Dominica, where there's a resident population of whales. But they're certainly off of the coast here in New York. And actually my film is about a young sperm whale who stranded here on Long Island
Oh, no.
when I was a toddler.
Well, at least it's not
So-
Staten Island.
No, well, the funny thing is that actually the whale first stranded right at Coney Island,
No.
like right under. I don't think there's any photographs that exist, or I haven't found them yet. But the whale basically underneath like the carousel, like near the boardwalk, and they found him. They put him back out to sea, and then he stranded just down the beach the following day.
Oh my gosh.
By Robert Moses State Park. So just, not very far from there. And
Oh,
they
poor little
brought,
buddy.
but they brought him into the boat basin there and rehabilitated him. It was one of the first successful whale rescues ever in the
Wow.
world, not just in the United States.
Wow.
So it's pretty neat. And as a toddler, my mom took us to visit this whale.
oh my
So it
gosh.
was absolutely incredible experience to see this, this mysterious creature from the depths.
Wow.
And to, not really know exactly what I was looking at, just know that it was like this incredible presence of an animal,
Yeah.
sort of staring back at you with this
Yeah.
enormous eye.
Yeah. How
So-
big are sperm whales?
So sperm whales range in size. So this whale happened to be about 20 feet long.
Whoa.
So it was a young whale. He was about 5 or 6 years old.
Wow.
And so the males reach over 65 feet and the
Mhm.
females average between 30 and 35 feet. So
Wow.
very different size wise.
yeah.
And then a newborn's like 12 to 13 feet.
Oh, little baby.
So yeah, we spent a lot of time in the water with newborns and they're
Yeah.
so curious. They're like puppies. It's just absolutely incredible.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
So do the families stick together? Like, what do whales
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. So
Do they argue with the in-laws? Like,
well, so it's funny because they are working on trying to sort of decode their language.
Wow.
But
how?
yeah, so
Like Google Translate?
yeah, with machine learning.
Wow.
But no, so basically though, the whales do stay together for almost their entire lives. They're matrilineal. They're very similar to elephants in that
Wow.
way. So the mothers and the daughters and the grandmothers and the aunts will stay together for their entire lives, forming these incredible family units. And then the males will stay with their family until they're in their adolescence. And then they sort of get kicked out when they're like 12 or 13 years old
Yeah.
and then go roam the ocean.
They go on a walkabout.
Yeah, basically. So like most of our whales that are like that you think about, and they can go anywhere in the ocean. They cross the ocean. So like a
Whoa.
whale in the Atlantic could be found in the Indian Ocean or the
Like
Pacific.
somewhere in Ibiza, come back to New York.
exactly. Yeah, they go check out the Azores. So like that baby sperm whale that I
Yeah.
saw should have still been with his mom,
Uh-huh.
So it's
Yeah.
just this like crazy thing to reconnect with these whales to understand where he should have been.
Yeah.
Then.
What's the biggest threat to sperm whales?
So there's humans
Yeah.
are the biggest threat
Ugh.
and have always been the biggest
What a
threat.
bummer.
If you think about sperm whales, the reason that their populations are, so small now is because of whaling.
Oh, really?
And sperm whales were the highest valued whale in
Oh,
the
wow.
whaling industry because of their spermaceti and their heads. And it was like this smokeless, great material for candles and lubricants for
Oh, wow.
machinery.
Oh, wow.
So they were basically hunted almost to near extinction. Moby Dick was a sperm whale.
Oh, my gosh.
So obviously we're not hunting them anymore,
Yeah.
which is a great thing.
right.
But plastics, they're ingesting a lot of plastics, entanglement.
Oh, wow.
So they'll get wrapped, in fishing lines and,
Wow.
old fishing gear. And that's
Right.
a problem because then they can't hunt because they dive to great depths when they hunt.
Wow.
So, if they have something tagging along, they really can't do that.
right.
Then, of course, toxins.
Right.
But in the wild, they don't have very many things that are threatening, but certainly orcas can eat them. So killer whales
Wow.
and then pilot whales will also attack the calves.
Oh, wow. Wow. Do they ever gosh, I always wonder, something so big in the water like that. It's like basically a submarine. Do boats ever hit them?
Yes,
Or
and that is another
who
threat.
wins?
Yeah.
A boat or them?
Unfortunately, the boats do
Ugh.
win. So we've got, there's a lot of shipping traffic. And so, yeah, high-speed ferries. They think
Yeah,
that
wow.
a whole bunch of whales recently were killed by a high-speed ferry.
Mm.
So, yeah, because also sperm whales, unlike many whales, many whales you'll see at the surface when they're there, but sperm whales sleep vertically right under the surface.
Whoa.
And so it's absolutely incredible to see. But so if you think about a high speed ferry coming
Yeah.
at you and you're sleeping kind of at the surface, it would just plow right through you, And so, yeah,
Uh.
so you definitely, ship strikes are a big issue for them as well.
So What are the solutions? Like we were earlier before we started recording talking about, you know, like people in the middle of the country that don't feel connected to the ocean. Just being able to eat organic like has such an impact on the phosphates and the like nitrates. So like what are the solutions to like help the sperm whales?
Well, I think number one is awareness that sperm whales exist and where they are in the ocean, and just to teach people about how incredible these animals are, that they live in these family units, that we can connect with them as humans, and they communicate with each other. They take care of each other. You know, we've seen babies nursing. I've seen them grooming each other with their mouths open. It's absolutely incredible, the behaviors that you witness. So I think that's the number one. Like, let's have everybody understand how beautiful these things are. Of course, then we've got the single-use plastic problem. So if we can eliminate the plastic that's there, then hopefully at least they won't be ingesting it. Of course, they're also ingesting a lot of fishing gear. So what can we do in terms of changing, you know, what kinds of fishing gear in terms of entanglement and sort of changing, you know, all of that. And that's a problem with right whales here in the Northeast as well. So different, you know, technology really to help to, you know, eliminate those kind of problems, and different materials possibly. And, you know, certainly in the Caribbean, they're using, you know, like discarded trash and things for a lot of their like fish aggregating devices. That's a threat. Now with ships, obviously, if we slow them down a little bit, you know, that helps a lot, especially, especially where, you know that there could be whales sleeping, and around like Dominica, there's whales, so many sperm whales, and they live there year round. So maybe when they're closer to the island, or we know exactly where they are, they, you know, slow down the ferry so that, you know, we can see it. And then also with tankers and cruise ships and all of that.
So. How in Dominica are people like receptive to your work?
So the Dominican people, a lot of them don't even know like the sperm whales are in their waters. A lot of them don't interact with the ocean. Of course, we work with the local community, and they're awesome. They love their whales. You know, they're very attached to them. We obviously work with the government. It's very restricted in terms of the permits to get in the water with the whales. So I work under a very strict scientific research permit, which is great.
That's awesome.
But yeah, you know, they love their whales. You know, they know that they're an attraction. There's, you know, there is whale watching, and people go to see them, and they get so excited when you see the fluke, you know. It doesn't take much. A whale, they're so charismatic that it doesn't take much to capture someone's heart once they see them. Because they're just so big. And it's just so insane that they're there, you know, and breathing air.
All right. So how can we get involved? How can we support what you're doing?
So there's a number of ways. So my new film, you can go online, check out the trailer. And, you know, if you want to support the film, that's great. It's findingfeisty.com or on GaelinRosenwaks.com. There's a link as well. So that would be like sort of the number one thing that I'm working on right now is finishing up this film that really I'm hoping will tug at people's heartstrings to get them to connect, because it's really about my personal journey of connection with these whales, and, you know, learning about their families. And then I also have a new book coming out that's on sperm whales. That's a photography book called Sperm Whales, Gentle Goliaths of the Ocean. And it's being printed by Rizzoli, published by Rizzoli, and it'll be out in October, but it's now available for pre-orders.
Amazing.
So yeah, amazing. Just saw some incredible
Where can we pre-order it? Real quick plug.
Any fine bookstore, online independent bookstore, or larger.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Gail, it's an absolute pleasure. You are such a gem of a human. What a badass explorer. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for the time and all the work that you're doing. And I can't wait to read the book, you know, see the pictures, watch the film that's coming out, watch the trailer for sure. And yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Gaelin is truly an explorer. Make sure to check out her new book, Sperm Whales, The Gentle Goliaths of the Ocean. On our next podcast, we will be talking to Tom Green, who's CEO and co-founder of Vesta, a public benefit company that is harnessing the power of the ocean to turn shoreline protection carbon negative. As always, I'm your host, Desiree Tavera, and this is Faraway Radio.